So how long are we just gonna stare at a logo before we start talking?
Nice intro.
Yeah.
I missed the production meeting, so I'm not sure who was supposed to be kicking us off.
Well, I'll start it off too, Ty. You sit back and relax, okay? I want you with a positive mindset going into this. Happy 2022, everybody. Don't mind Tuta. He just added another candle to his cake this past week, so you know how that goes.
Happy birthday!
We see all that fire on the cake, and it just was a reminder of, man, we're getting older. So, Happy New Year, like I said. Welcome to Pure Fishing. What number are we on? Is this 71, 72?
72.
72. Man.
Not quite how old Tuta is, but we're catching up fast.
Yeah, very close. Very, very, very true. So, we had some football games this past week, right? A lot of football games, and I know there were a lot of good ones. Boy, I don't know if you watched that Music City Bowl. That was like a shootout. That was probably one of my favorite ones to watch so far. Bowl was a great game as well. There's some clunkers out there as well. We won't dwell on those. But Brandon, Daniel, Tuta, how's the new year going so far?
Man, great start, Corey. Great start, my man.
Oh yeah, New Year is off and rocking.
Yes.
I think he's in a really good mood.
Yeah,
I think off his birthday.
Are you trying to convince yourself or us?
I know exactly where Tuta is at. It's that, after you've worked your last game of the season, it's that, that withdrawal to know that, man, I got to wait a few months before I can work again. And so I think it's just hitting Tuta kind of harder this time. Who knows? But I guess we just get by that, and we'll watch some plays. How's that?
Sounds good. We forgot to tell you, Corey. Just kidding. This was your idea. Lead off with very interesting process of the catch play. And oh, by the way, why don't we throw in the pylon at the goal line? How about that?
Yeah, it was
and a bobble. So I'll just let you take it from here on how you experience this.
Everyone's heard us talk about, whether in person at one of our camps or on this platform, we talk about self-evaluation. I mean, we talk about that all the time. And, this was my play from last Friday that, I immediately went into self-evaluation mode, pretty much on the field when I went to replay, and I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. But boy, you have the process of the catch, like I said, the pylon in there, and, where was I at position wise? There's all kinds of things that I wanted to really dive into here. And so I'll kind of tell you my thought process. Number one, I don't know why my right arm goes out like that. I don't know exactly what the hell I was doing there, but I didn't even know I did it till I watched this on film. Like, what am I doing? So
I didn't even notice that until you said that, Corey.
But, we know our process of the catch. We have to have a body part, firm control, body part down, and the element, the fun element of time, something to do with, time enough to do something with the ball or survive the ground with the ball. Well, what happened here is, I'm doing fine, and then I see the big bobble, and to me, that as soon as that happens, I've got to restart the process of the catch, because you have to go and find that foot again. Obviously we're starting with the foot, and if he sticks it, I think I have a little bit different way of working this play. But as soon as I see that bobble, I go down to the foot again. By the time I get back up to the ball and follow him down, I have no earthly idea where that ball passed over. I see the pylon lay down. I don't know who kicked it. I don't know if it was the defender that kicked it. I don't know if it was the receiver that kicked it. And so what really kind of upset me on this personally was that typically in this type of situation, I'm going to rule positive. And by positive, I mean positive outcome for the offense, I guess, and rule touchdown. And for some reason or another, I was like, well, let's put it at the 3-inch line. And, as soon as I ruled on this, I immediately went to my 020 because I knew it was tight. And I was like, I was going up to our replay officials, say, this is tight, please check this out, which obviously they're going to look at it anyway, but that's just kind of one of my processes. And so, as we see going through this and we work the process of the catch, once that, at first he has his left foot down, and if he sticks the catch, all we have then to deal with is the element of time, or in this case, going to the ground. But once he bobbles, and it's a pretty big bobble, we have to restart. And as I'm going, like I said, I'm going down, I see that right foot and the left foot's down pretty much at the same time, but I have no idea where the ball is. Is it across outside? Is it across inside? Who touched the pylon? Because there's a big difference, right? If he touches the pylon, we can give him goal line extended. But if he didn't, if the defender knocked the pylon over, then he's got to get it inside. And it was just, my position wasn't the best. I would have liked to have been a little bit deeper. I'd like to be where I am now in the video to start with. And I don't remember where we snapped this from. I think it was about the 30, maybe. I don't know. So, I don't know. It was definitely a tough play. I'd like to have it over again. But it's like I told Tuta and Brandon and Daniel after this play happens, it's amazing what little thing can happen to just kind of fry our circuitry. And that's exactly what happened here to me, is that when I saw that bobble and I had to start all over, it just kind of, it fried me. I'll be completely honest with you, it fried my circuitry a little bit. And because it wasn't, I guess I was kind of anticipating what was going to happen. I was like, okay, he's going to catch it here. And is he going to reach, I was thinking, okay, he's going to reach for the pylon. Is he going to get it inside the pylon? And none of that came to fruition. And so I was trying to anticipate, but I didn't, that part I think is what, in hindsight, that's kind of what's fried my circuits. So I'd love to hear some comments from the board here to see what you guys think and how you would evaluate this from a, not only mechanics, but no catch process, all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, great self-evaluation, first of all. So I think we all appreciate that. I don't know. Tuta, you've worked this very play before. So not that what's interesting is we are all heroes when we watch somebody else's play.
Yep.
Right. And first of all, think about everything Corey, he went from A to Z pretty much, positioning, this weird right arm thing that he's never done before. His decision making, what fried his circuitry, in his words. So I don't know, from a fellow former side judge, I'd be kind of curious to hit my mute button and listen to you guys chat.
No, so what I would love to do is just ask Corey a bunch of questions, just rapid fire, throw Corey into the grinder and ask him some questions. I have no idea how to work this play better. I guess one question, Corey, were you 100% on that it was a completed pass? Because you said you went down to the feet. Were you 100% certain that it was a completed pass?
That's the one thing that I was 100% on, that I knew that he had firm control with that body part down. And then I watched him go, because I had this as a going to the ground. So I did have that, the process of the catch. I had that where I just didn't know was who hit the pylon and where was the ball in relation to the pylon.
Got you.
Because in my mind's eye, it looked like the ball was in his left hand as he was going over the goal line. So that to me thought that it was going to be outside the pylon, but it's I had no relation to who. So go on, next question. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. Other question is, do you think that because when he originally touched the pass, his body was kind of shielding you from the ball? Do you think that the fact that when he spun and presented you this huge bobble, is that really what started you down the path of just being like foggy brain, or for lack of a better term?
100% the bobble was because I had to go back to step one of the catch process. We always talk about when we're tight to a sideline, we're tight to an end line. We want to see that foot down first and then go find the ball. And so I knew that had he stuck the catch there, that his left foot was down. But
Yeah.
when I see him turn and he's bobbling, I'm like, oh damn, I got to go back. And so go back to the feet, and I see his right foot come down. And at that point, I think the ball's in his left hand, because I think that's the hand I saw first get back onto the ball after the bobble. But yeah, most definitely to your question, once he bobbled it, that's what's like, oh man, and I wasn't anticipating it. I wasn't properly prepared for it. And it just really, it jumbled me up pretty good.
Yeah. Do you remember your initial position? Because I know you start deeper than a lot of officials. Would this be one where you would have started on the goal line, or did you move on this play?
I did start on the goal line, but I was kind of back of the white. I don't usually go back to the limit line until we're inside the 20. And mechanically, what I'd like to have done is recognize this earlier and take a few steps backwards. As you can see, I'm still moving as everything's happening, which is not my ideal. I'd like to be completely stable. I mean, especially something like this. I mean, my God, you got so many things to watch.
Right.
That maybe had I been completely stable instead of kind of moving backwards and more upfield, maybe that could have helped. And, maybe me moving upfield kind of towards the one, maybe that skewed my perception of the pylon. There's all these things that, I've watched this play probably 100 times thinking, okay, what did I, trying to really dig deep to see, okay, for the next time, how am I going to nail this? Because I can't redo this one, but I'll redo it for the next time.
Well, and one thing I noticed in Tom Finken, I know you really appreciate Tom Finken. He was somebody who taught us a lot. When receivers take an outside release, a lot of times they're going to be going on these go routes. So do you remember when you realized that this could be threatening your pylon, if this was a deep route or not? At what point did you realize that?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. With number 9, he is their stud receiver for Wake Forest. And in my prep and even earlier in the game, he was running this outside release, but then he would cut it off. And he would either, go inside, come to a complete stop. So this was the first time that he actually continued deep. But, in watching this place, because the corner kind of fell off, it looked like they had like a cover 2 type look in this. And so I didn't think, initially off the line, I didn't think that he was going to go deep just because he hadn't done it. And I really hadn't seen it much on film. But, I've got to probably keep that as a possibility.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'm thinking that there's some questions in the chat about the line of scrimmage official. For me, the line of scrimmage official wouldn't be able to help me with anything on this play other than this, was the feet inbounds or not. And you had that all on your own. Is there something that you would be looking for from the line of scrimmage official on a play like this?
No, whenever a pass or even a runner is angling towards that pylon, that's all ours as a deep wing. Andy Warner was the headline judge on this game with us, who some of you know. And he came down during the play. He's like, I knew you didn't need any help from me. And he's like, and I was like, well, what if I would have looked at you? What he says? He said, I would have had his foot in bounds. But that's about it. And so, this is all ours as a deep wing, in my opinion. Unless we completely botch the feet being in and we call him out of bounds, maybe we could have help there, but I would hope that we would have that.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you.
So,
I love to see officials on it. And Corey, I know you beating yourself up, and you're like, man, this is a tough play. When you look at yourself on the field from someone who's not you, like me watching you, I'm like, damn, this dude was cool. he really nailed this play. You look like you're totally confident and you know what you're doing. Now you got it wrong, but who cares?
Right.
To me, you look good. I love the way you don't look like you're going crazy. You don't look like you can't handle this type of play. To me, I love the way you worked it.
I wonder if the line of scrimmage question comes for so often on these. We see deep wings point back at the line of scrimmage. Is that I don't think I'm wrong by that observation. But what is that to buy time? What is that? I mean,
the only time I will point back is if there's more of a lateral progression towards the goal line. So if he's moving more up the sideline before getting the goal line, but when he comes in diagonal like this, I'm inside that too. If I don't know if he's in or out or foot down or foot not down in bounds, then I'm not doing my job. So now if this is a sweep play and he runs up the sideline from the 5-yard in, I might give a point back.
tight roping or something.
Right.
So the answer to the question of did you and your line of scrimmage official prepare? The answer is yes, and the result is that you didn't need the line of scrimmage on this play. Now the result be damned, so to speak. But I mean, this is all your call, 100% of the way.
Yes.
I just want to make sure everybody. And Tuta already said that, but I mean, we get a lot of that everywhere in officiating. We just want to make sure that's clear. This is the deep wings call all the way for the reasons everybody stated.
Seth asked a question about being blocked from the pylon, and here's the thing, Seth. I didn't know who hit the pylon. I knew the pylon got hit, but by the time I get down, I didn't know if the defender got into it first. I just didn't know. I mean, I was going down to it, and I couldn't tell if 9 hit it or if he kind of straddled it, and then the defender came into it. It just, I was taking an educated guess, and I just, flipped the wrong side of the coin. But
I'm sure.
I'd love to have just gone, done with what I'd normally do and just ring touchdown and in those 50-50 types things. But I'd like to see the detail better, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, the philosophy is when in doubt, it's not a score, but that's not really what we're talking about here.
Right.
I mean, that's what you're saying is a little bit different. Let's go with a couple other questions just so we get them all in, because this is really good stuff. Rob asks, we talked about the line of scrimmage, but what did you say, if you can recall exactly, over the 0-2-0? I think that's interesting to people. You talked about calling up for replay, but like what was those words?
I just said, hey, see, who is our communicator? Gosh, who was
not sure.
Anyway, I was like, hey, it was Brad Van Vark. So I said, hey, Brad, This is tight. Take a look. This is really tight. Take a look. And that's all I think I said it 2 or 3 times.
So just an alert, right? I mean,
just an alert, which they're going to do it, but I don't know. It's just a habit.
I guess they're going to look at this 100 times out of 100. It heightens the urgency, I guess, and maybe the rest of the crew too, because we're spotting this short. Offense goes fast to the line. Let's all be ready for what you're deeming as the calling officials a potential stoppage. So I think that serves a good purpose. Okay, what about
Brandon, hold on. Let's dig a little bit deeper into that, because you and I were talking about a game, another bowl game, where there was a potential touchdown at the goal line, and replay did not stop the game. It was another first down situation. I think the ruling on the field was short of the goal line, and it created a first down. The offense did go fast to the line, and replay did not stop the game. So
yeah. Same situation here, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So at what point in time should the replay official stop the game? When should the replay official not stop the game? I would
anything involving a score. We don't worry about the down. We know that the line to gain is really only concerned when it, third going to fourth or fourth going to turnover or first. Yep. But with a score, down doesn't matter.
Right.
Now, if this was 55-0 midway through the fourth quarter, and it's the offense going in, maybe then significant competitive effect comes into play, I guess, just because it's almost like time and score in the booth. But other than that, the goal line is sacred.
Right.
This team did go really fast. I think they were one of the top 10 fastest teams this year.
Yes.
Whoever tracks that stat each year, I don't know who does that.
Yeah, more power to them.
According to the quote unquote they had them as a pretty fast team. So, I can't say that entered into my thought process for getting on 0-2-0. It was just, I knew it was a tight play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just good because the referee. Now, anybody on the crew can stop the game when we get paged or hear the audible alert. But, I mean, as a referee, I appreciate hearing the urgency in your voice on this, because I'm sure you weren't just, talking like you are now.
Oh, no.
or talking like you're on, like I've seen you a few times south of the border, perhaps. It's not that laid back. A little more urgency in the voice.
Right.
So that's fine. I'll just throw in one more to cover the chat, because this is good stuff, and some of it's a little bit, I don't know. We talk about it a lot, but I mean, it's good. So Tito says, what about the G on the sideline? Do you intentionally try to place that anywhere. I think his point is it looks like it's almost right in line with the other yard markers.
Yeah, so I hate the orange G. I think it should be outlawed from the game of football because it's just something there. And so this was the first time we've been down to this area of the field before, and I threw it back to the wall. Like I literally went and grabbed it and threw it back to the wall. But this is the first time we had just gotten to the 30, so that's when I parked, and I didn't have the time to do it. So yeah, that's one of those things that I pitch all the way back whenever I can. But somebody, they must have had people in charge of the orange G that say, hey, that's your job. Make sure that's always on the lemon line.
All right. Guys, anything else? Thanks, Corey. This was
awesome.
I don't know. We always self-evaluation, and it's hard, but I guess a little lens into Mr. Luxner's self-evaluation. It's not easy. It's not easy to do. Self-evaluation is really easy when the result is what you want it to be, right?
Right.
Self-evaluation is so easy when someone else is evaluating themselves.
And that's like we hear a lot, and we've probably said it too. I want all the feedback in the world. You know what? we're really, I want all the feedback unless you're going to tell me I blew it or something. I want all the feedback if it's really, really good.
All the positive feedback you can give me. But you know what? What else?
Human nature. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, what I was thinking about as you guys were talking about that, as our kind of mission and what we're here to do is, I think initially is just talk football selfishly, but also I think we're driven by just trying to help people grow and get better at officiating. It's something that we're passionate about, and we've been really fortunate. Us talking about how to work this pylon play is beneficial, right? There's value in that for especially if you work that position, but for any official, just to talk about those concepts. That pales in comparison and how we can help you all in the community develop as an official by modeling what self-evaluation looks like. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're like, okay, whatever, let's talk about catch, no catch. That's fine. And there's value there, but I'm telling you, listening to how Corey breaks himself down and evaluates the little details to that right chicken wing that comes out, that is longitudinal value that will help you grow exponentially compared to how we're going to work this pylon play, next year. So we talk about it a lot. I don't know if you get tired of hearing it or not. Really can't overstate. That's like that's the whole cliche of teaching a man to fish versus giving him a fish. That skill will grow your overall practice way more than just talking about catch, no catch, and pylon play. So hopefully you're getting some value out of that.
That's good. Thank you, Corey. But I don't think we're done.
Oh no, we got more fun.
Stay in the Gator Bowl. And
maybe this doesn't look like El Paso.
No, it was not.
That's called the Sun Bowl. Now this may have not been your call in terms of the calling official, but you were certainly on this sideline, and there was a lot of communication involved. Now, we're not going to show all. There's some clips of the officials communicating and huddling and kind of over with the coach, and we can talk about location of that conference if that's important. The content of the communication is important. Talk about the call. If you guys want to get into a little targeting process steps, we can do all that. But maybe just set the stage for us here, and then I like this under the hood aspect of like, hey, what went on between the crew? What was the initial decision making, and then some replay activity involved. So maybe just take us through that if you don't mind, or
Sure.
You might need to take a drink of water. You're talking all night, but go for it, man.
So this was a nothing play. It's a quarterback scramble, and I see Andy. I can see in the background that the quarterback slides, and that there's a possible contact by the defender. The reason I came up is because when the flag goes down, the Wake Forest coach goes ballistic. I mean, just goes crazy. And I see, Andy is, he's in harm's way. So I come running up to just kind of diffuse the situation and let Andy go do what he needs to do. Try to keep the coach back where he was, because the coach immediately, there was no contact. And, I think, and he was really getting after Andy. And I think to a point where Andy, I think if he did, I don't know if he admit this or not, but it looked like he was getting ready to flag him. He just had that body language to him. I was like, oh no, I need to get up there and, kind of help diffuse the situation. And so once I get up there, I'm within earshot of what Andy and Kevin, our referee, were talking about, because obviously as a referee, you're going to have some responsibility for this runner being a quarterback. And they had a difference of opinion as to whether or not there was contact. And when I got into Kevin kind of brought me over and I heard the conversation, and he says, well, I'm not 100% sure that there wasn't contact. And Andy says, well, I'm not 100% sure that there was contact, but I'm pretty sure that there was contact. And at that point, Kevin asked me, he's like, well, did you have a look at this? And I was like, Kevin, no, I don't. I had 3 players up near me that I was looking through. So I have no idea if there was contact or not. And so, then there was a brief, very, very brief consideration of targeting. But that really went by really quickly. That there was no, on the field, Andy and Kevin didn't think there was anything that really jumped out as targeting to this. But they decided to stay with the play for the dead ball hit on a sliding quarterback. This then obviously this did go to review, and I don't know if we have anything else, if we want to get into the targeting aspect yet or not, or if you want to stop and see if there's any questions that you guys have or whatever.
Yeah, so I thought it was kind of interesting what you said. So Andy, we referenced Andy a bunch, and I think everybody knows, but I'll just make sure everybody's clear. Calling official, and just so happens calling official is calling defense, who is the exact sideline he's working. And look, say one play at a time. Well, there's a lot more context to this game than that, right? Would you say it's more? And I don't want to get into much of anything too deep here, other than just there are different factors, human factors, related to when you're calling fouls on the team you're working. You work the sideline all season, versus when you call fouls on the team you're not working. And before anybody tells me I'm full of it, I mean, this is the full reason why we have implemented switching sidelines at halftime. There were statistics that suggested officials were more hesitant to call fouls on the sideline they were working. So, Corey, I don't know. Talk about that. And I feel like your empathy for Andy is what led you up, to kind of, basically serve as interference for the head coach getting on him.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much empathy, just that it was, the coach was visibly hot. I mean, he came shooting out onto the field. And I think Andy was his blood pressure was rising as well. And I just knew that two guys in the red, if you will, didn't need to be next to one another. So, yeah. I was just kind of trying to be a buffer. And, Andy did say to me later in the game, he's like, man, I've never had a side judge come up and do that. They usually just let me sit there and get chewed on. I was like, well, I just, okay.
Well, it's easier to not be involved. Quite frankly.
100%.
Yeah, just kind of watch what's going
on. But as to the sideline thing, I'll be honest with you, I don't think I've ever consciously thought of that. I know that when you do throw if you do make a call that goes against the team the sideline you're working, you're going to hear a little bit more of that chatter at that time. And but that's that's part of working a sideline. That's just
And there was never an accusation, I think, by anybody that it's a conscious thing.
Right.
It's just one of those and when we say the statistics bore it out, it was like minimal margins, but it was significant enough that the decision was made to switch the sideline officials at half, right? So that whatever. I mean, you work both teams. You work both
right.
teams sideline. So that's not accusing anybody of anything. It's just a human subconscious thing.
100%.
Proved out by very slim statistical margins.
Right, 100%. I liked it, when we did go to the switching teams. So I think back when we did have the whole sideline, that, if you had a rough first half with, you had some calls that went against that sideline and you knew you had to go back, you're like, oh man, he's going to be on me all game or the whole second half, and maybe that would leak more into it. But
Right.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. Well, we don't have to go too much deeper into that, but it was the reason that switch was made. So, okay. So then eventually somebody decided something. And was there anything that put the crew over the top to figure out? Because really they had three options, if I'm thinking about this right. They could go with nothing. In other words, pick up the flag. They could stay with unnecessary roughness only, or they could have gone with unnecessary roughness with targeting. And so was there any key words just for all of us to learn that tipped the crew over the top to make a decision? Because, I mean, we cut out a lot of the conversation, and that's fine. Some of these calls can be tough when different officials have different angles. But was there any? Do you recall anything over that kind of tipped the crew towards one way or the other? Any key words?
No, I mean, I know that, so in the background, you have the entire Wake Forest coaching staff, primarily the head coach, saying that there was no contact, that he flew over the top of him. And that's initially, I think, what it looked like to the referee's position. But Andy saw the contact. But, when I got up into that conversation, nobody was really cemented in their opinion one way or the other. And it came down to, when Kevin brought me in and he asked me if I had a look. And the only thing I asked is we have a flag down. If neither of you are sure, maybe we, I say we should probably stick with it. And Kevin and Andy kind of, discussed a little further. And then they just said, and Kevin said, okay, we're just going to stay with it. Because Kevin said, I'm not confident enough that there wasn't contact to pull you off. So let's stay with it. The targeting conversation was early on. I wasn't part of that, but I did talk to Andy later in the game. He said, when he reported that there was contact to the sliding quarterback, Kevin said, was there targeting? And Andy said, no, I don't have this as targeting. I just have it as a late hit. Because he said he got him into the shoulder. He didn't see the elbow into the head. He thought it was into the shoulder. Which I guess I can see that from his angle because he's kind of trailing it and the way the body turns. I definitely could see that. So, the coach is doing the normal, hey, look at the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, coach, at this point they were talking. I wasn't a part of it. I was like, okay, let's watch, and so I took the bait, which I normally don't do. I was like, there was one right in front of me. I was watching. I was like, well, coach, it looks like he gets his elbow either in the shoulder or the back of the head. And he didn't like that answer, because it didn't agree with him, his bias. But so I may have stirred up the hornet's nest on that. But that was really all of the conversation. We went, Kevin reported it, and we got Paige pretty much immediately after the announcement to go through the targeting process.
To review for targeting. So okay, look, what do you guys think? I mean, is this a defenseless player?
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
Absolutely. Indicator. Is this an attacking? This is really interesting. Is this attacking or taking aim at this player for the purposes to display an indicator of targeting? Break that down.
No.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the body, if the contact comes from the shoulder, maybe you could go that way because he's leading with that shoulder.
Right.
But once you don't have, then we're obviously skipping to the third element. But I don't have this with where the contact is. I don't see this as a huge indicator.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost it's a little deceiving because it looks almost like a launch, but he's like that left foot is planted. I don't know that it really rises to the level of a launch.
I was hoping you would say that. So when we launch, when launch is our indicator, really it's in tandem with taking aim, right? Launching and taking aim with that shoulder, helmet, right? Don't you agree with that? I mean, so yes, it's a launch because he's launching himself, but you don't agree with that? I mean, you have to. So in other words, launch.
I understand what you're saying.
The word launch that describes a player action should never be considered an absolute indicator unless there's an element of taking aim with that launch.
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. I like how you said that.
He'll come around later.
Yeah, I need more time to process that because because by
This guy's launching himself,
launching your body into the air towards a defenseless player, towards a head or neck or defenseless player, when you launch yourself, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to say the same thing that you are. It's kind of like if you launch, almost the aim's a part of that. Like if you're launching your body into the air in the direction of a head or neck. So what I'm saying then is this could be an aim. Like you can take aim and miss.
Yes.
Right.
That's fair.
I guess what I'm suggesting,
you can take aim and miss on accident, or you could take aim to miss by launching yourself.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand the difference. This is a guy launching but really trying to get over this quarterback is what I see.
Okay. But that's a little bit, okay. That's fine. I think what we end up doing is playing the result a little bit there, because there is, let's just go to the next element. Do we have forcible contact to the head or neck area of a defenseless player?
Not, in my opinion, not that rises to the level of targeting.
Right. And I agree with that. I don't know what Tuta and Corey think, but I absolutely agree with that. He hits him late, and I think UNR is appropriate, although we're not doing that. But I agree, it's not forcible to rise to the level of targeting. Whereas if that right shoulder gets into his head, I think that's probably, we're all going to say, yeah, that's forcible. And then we're probably going to say that is an indicator we have a launch and taking aim.
100%.
So it's kind of like,
that's different. Right.
Right.
And I hear what you're saying.
But I'm talking about the indicator in isolation, absent of contact. Like if we just look at his action, if what you're saying is it's not an indicator because there's no contact. What I'm saying is that exact same action with contact would be an indicator.
But I understand
the action of the body action of the defender in isolation, to me, could be an indicator for targeting.
I hear you. What I'm saying is this guy could have absolutely decapitated this quarterback if he wanted to, and he made the decision not to. I can tell that he makes the decision not to.
Yeah.
I'm just that's what I'm seeing with this. Now, yeah. I'm not sure what this little right arm deal is. I mean, I don't really know why he did that. Was it incidental? Did he kind of give a parting shot going by? I don't know. That's different. But that to me is not really, in terms of the launch aspect, taking aim, to arrive at an indicator for targeting. But I hear what you're saying. I just want to be careful. And I think element 2 and element 3 are so closely related, for these purposes, that I see a lot of maybe a little bit more overlap than we've given it credit for in my mind to crystallize this stuff. Yes, he leaves his feet, but I want to be careful of just calling that an indicator in isolation. If he leaves his feet and then attacks the player, now it's an indicator. Okay, now did the attacking indicator result in forcible contact that rises to the level of targeting? If yes, it's targeting. If no, it's not. But I see a difference here. I don't know, Tuta, if I'm making any sense at all.
I think I can somewhat understand where you're going with it. I think a launch does need to have a separate sort of 1A, 1B element consideration to it. We've seen players launch on wide receivers who are across the middle, who are going for a pass. We've seen players launch. So I can launch myself and hit with my chest. I can launch myself and go for the ball. I can launch myself and do something else, but then I can also launch myself and use my forearm into the body of the player. I can launch myself and use my shoulder into the body of the player. And those are different actions, and those are more attacking actions than just launching yourself and contacting the player. And I think that's what you're saying. And I think in this situation, for me, the attacking element is not simply the launch, because the launch is just leaving the feet. The attacking element, if we want to see an attacking element, it is the forearm deal that he's doing. If we want to, that's the only thing that I see that could be an attacking element on this, is what he does with his right forearm. And I'm not so totally sold on that being an attacking element, but just the launch of leaving the feet. I agree with you. I don't think that that's necessarily an attacking element.
I mean, honestly, I think he's trying to dive over the guy, and the elbow just clips his helmet. You know, I could be playing the result a little bit, but like Brandon said earlier, if he wanted to hit this guy, he could have planted him into the Tax Slayer logo there at the top of the field if he wanted to, but he didn't. So, but
Right.
one interesting aspect. So after targeting was put on, 5 was coming off the field, and he comes to me. He's like, "That can't be targeting because I didn't hit him with the crown of the helmet."
Yeah.
And I looked at him and I was like, there's another way to have targeting, right? And he honestly, he didn't know. He had no idea about hitting a defenseless player just in the head and neck area with any part of his body. And so, I gave him like a 5-second tutorial, but he you could tell the look in his eyes. He honestly had no idea that this should be deemed targeting, which to me was just it. Like, I was like, what? Like, this is not a new thing. But I just found that very interesting that he didn't have any idea that this could be targeting.
All right. So we said forcible, but doesn't rise to the level of targeting without force. But it does to, the chat. Getting some activity in the chat, which is great. It really does rise to the level of UNR because these sliding quarterbacks are protected from contact with force to their heads, certainly. And, it's hard to use.
This is super late. I mean, given the standard for a sliding quarterback, this isn't even really close in terms of timing.
And it can be incidental force. It can be intentional force, accidental force, whatever you want to come up with. Quarterback's protected. No different than a quarterback is protected when he throws the ball and a defensive lineman tries to bat the pass out and comes down with his big hand and forcibly strikes the quarterback in the head. It's not targeting, but it is a personal foul for roughing the passer. This is a personal foul for a late hit on the sliding quarterback with contact to the head. So that can be confusing for a lot of folks. We just want to make sure we understand there are certain degrees of contact to the head that can be a foul for UNR, but maybe not rise to the level of targeting. Got to go through the process. And then there can certainly be, things that rise all the way to the level of targeting. So, what a play. I mean, it's really good.
I want to go back to something that Corey may mention. The headline judge thought that the contact was in the shoulder. I think that's something that's really important, especially if we have two officials who are trying to determine if we have a foul or not. Had that come up in conversation and I'm the referee and I know for a fact he didn't hit him in the shoulder, we may have picked this flag up. Because I don't think we should just talk about contact versus no contact. If we get to the point where we're really confused and the headline judge says, oh no, he hit him in the shoulder. And then the referee maybe had a different angle and saw for a fact that he didn't hit him in the shoulder. He wasn't sure if he hit him in the head, but he knew he didn't hit him in the shoulder. Then that's something that we can use in being more specific when trying to determine if we're going to leave a flag on the ground, put a flag on the ground, or anything like that.
See, our referee, he wasn't sure if there was contact or not, but he wasn't sure that there wasn't, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm thinking about a very similar play that I had last year on a sliding quarterback. It happened to be 35 yards downfield, believe it or not, and the officials downfield thought that the player went right over the top of him, and I said, "Oh no, absolutely not! I saw him; he hit the dude right in the shoulder, and I saw where the contact occurred, and they thought it went right over the top." So that's just why I'm just thinking about if we can be specific. And when we having some of these conversations, because 15 yards is a lot. That's a pretty severe penalty. So if we can be specific when we talking about where the contact occurs, that could help us get a play right or determine if we're going to pick the flag up or not.
One last thing, referees, let's make sure we're not just if we're going to run after a quarterback, we get it. We're supposed to protect him, but we don't just have our eyes on that running quarterback. Okay, and I'm not saying this referee did. I don't know. What I do know is, we don't get enough reps of these nearly, but the best way to be the most accurate on these and improve our odds is if we're not necessarily sprinting, but kind of moving up the field, maintaining an angle and looking for the defense, refereeing the defense coming in, not just watching the quarterback slide. We're gonna know right, Tuta, that the quarterback starts his slide. We're going to know that out of our peripheral. We can process all of that out of our peripheral. We really need to hone in on the body language of the defense. Now, look, there's 4 defensive guys around this sliding quarterback. One of them's getting blocked. Two of them are jogging. One of them is going after this guy. So this is just a great play on video. So download it after the session, whatever. But this is a great play on video to practice getting our eyes to the attacking defender early, right? And not just watching the sliding quarterback. The line of scrimmage guys watch the sliding quarterback. Why? Because they got to get the spot. And that's hard enough. Referees, center judges, even umpires, anybody else on the field, try to pick up the defense as early as possible. And it's going to make us more accurate on just what you were talking about, which is where did he actually hit him? What was his body posture? Was there an element of time between the quarterback lowering his backside and the guy deciding to go after him? If there wasn't an element time, he was probably already committed, and therefore, that lessens the likelihood of a foul. If there was an element of time, that increases the chances for a foul, but I cannot see that if I'm just watching the quarterback run in space. I have to be looking for that attacking defender, and the earlier I pick him up, the better my chances are.
There's a couple of questions here as if we involve the alternate at all in the discussion, and we did not involve him in the discussion. I know he was helping with the sideline with the coaches. I know we didn't show that aspect of this play, but he was really involved with that. But unless the referee or headline judge looked to him for any type of help, I'm not aware of any. I know there was a question asked of the umpire over 0-2-0, and he simply said he wasn't looking at it. So
I would say, Corey, to add to that, if you're the alternate and you see the referee and the headline judge really struggling and you have positive information, like that he hit that guy in the head, that you could bring that close to the sideline, I think you can do that and help the crew. I wouldn't just, go get involved in the conversation. What do you think? I don't know. What do you think? I'm just here to get on TV. But if and you can tell and sense uncertainty or hear it through the 0-2-0, I would say certainly bring real tangible information that could help the crew get out of the mess. Also, I would say if I'm on the field, I don't know that I would ever go to the alternate maybe and ask. I don't know what you guys think. I don't know that I would get to that level.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, the thought never crossed my mind. I know that.
Let's stay with the Gator Bowl.
Let's go more Gator Bowl.
God damn, Corey.
All right.
We had some interesting stuff happen. I mean, it was a beautiful day in Jacksonville, and after. It was kind of an equal trade. So, we told the story about the Sun Bowl, Gator Bowl stuff. So we had much better weather. It was 80 degrees. It was downright hot at some points. But we didn't have a very competitive game. Whereas the guys that worked the Sun Bowl, they had a competitive game, but they worked in 45 and rain. So, if you consider that equitable, I don't know.
Oh, no.
I like the trade.
Well,
so I know
winning.
So this play here, we have I think it's a swing pass, something like that, that we rule on the field as making the line to gain. And, when I looked at this play, I reached out to the guys like, have we talked about double action a lot on this? Because I know we reference it, but, how do we identify double action? What does a double action look like in terms of where we spot the ball with that? And as deep wings, we get to do it at the goal line typically. But, in our line of scrimmage officials, they deal with it a lot more often than we do. But I think, wherever you work on the sideline, you can learn from any play that involves double action. And so for those of you who don't know, we talk about double action is where it looks like one smooth, one action with a runner or ball carrier going to the ground, but we have a distinct knee down, then he kind of pops forward, or body part down and then kind of pops forward. And we have to know where is the ball when that first body part hits the ground, and that's where the end of that's where the ball is declared dead, not where that forward flop, if you will, ends up. And so on this one, we ruled that he did achieve the line to gain, which I believe was the 10-yard line at this point, because we'd had a 5-yard penalty earlier in the series, I believe. But we go through that and we ruled it that we got paged that, and they were looking at the spot, and then notice the time on the clock. We're 30 seconds in the second quarter. And so as we get paged, the clock gurus, we recognize that, okay, this is something that would take it from a dead clock, because we stopped it for a first down, back to a running clock. and we had to go through the options. And we had some O2O difficulties there, so I tried to get that information over to the line judge and field judge sideline. That didn't work out so well. So I just said, screw it, I'm going to run over there and go over this with the coach. And at that point, we talked about, okay, coach, this is something, we're going to bring it back to a running clock. We're going to put it to 36 seconds, run it to 26, but you can avoid that because they had a timeout left. The head coach said at that point, no, we don't want to avoid it. We're going to run it down, call a timeout with 2 or 3 seconds and kick a field goal. So we were able to get that part right. I know, Kevin wasn't happy with his announcement on this because it made it seem like they declined the 10-second runoff. Well, actually, they declined the option of stopping the 10-second runoff with using the timeout. So it was one of those, with these clock, we say it all the time, we're under a minute, and hopefully we're not using that as just some type of an empty mechanic, that it's to remind us that, okay, if we have certain situations pop up, we need to be aware of that and get it right and get it right as quickly as possible. So I know Brandon's got the screen share on, so I think he wants to go over the double action a little bit more. So that was kind of this play in a nutshell. Now, did we lose Brandon?
I don't know. He's trying to be fancy, I guess.
I was back on mute. My bad. So
Okay.
what you said right here, body parts down, and then the double action is the runner falling forward to basically a part of the field that is beyond really where the ball was when the knee was down. So you described that great, but that's exactly what this double action is. And so if you're the goal line, if the 10 was the goal line, we really wouldn't want to rule a touchdown here, just like the 10 being the line to gain. We didn't want to rule first down, right? So now what's the rule? What's really the rule that Corey just broke down that they executed, right? They executed it well. The announcement, Kevin, whatever. I mean, that's fine. I guess he'll have some self-evaluation to do just like you, right, Corey?
Correct.
It's all good. That's why we do this stuff. All right, so what's the replay official and the crew really going to think about is we got to put the clock back to when, like right here, the runner was down. Runner's down at 36. Now, that reversing that to short of the line to gain, like Corey said, creates a running clock. Remember, the crew stopped the clock right up here. Okay, for where did we stop the clock? We stopped the clock at about 34, but really, replay is going to be very precise and stop it right when that knee's down at 36. Now, like you said, Corey, there's really no accept or decline 10-second runoff in this situation, right?
Right.
That's out. That's more for when it's a foul and then the offended team has a choice. Well, here, there's not a foul. This is just administratively how a rule. This is just how this is done. So Wake Forest has 1 timeout. You can see that graphic. Rutgers has 3 timeouts. So really, both teams have an option to use a timeout. And the funny question about this is, who do you go to first? And the answer is, there is no answer.
Right.
You really just kind of ask both. If everybody's got heads up on this, you ask both. And if one team wants to call timeout, then they get it. If both teams want to call timeout, I honestly would probably go with the offense because, they're strategically calling their timeout to save time. So, I don't know if that's proper or not, but if they want the timeout, I'd probably go with the offense.
We defer to the offense just for that
Sure.
fact. That's where we went to first because they're the ones trying to score. Rutgers made it very clear very early that they had no desire or intention to stop this from happening. So,
because Rutgers strategically, if we think about it, they could burn the timeout. It's going to go to 4th and 1 out of replay. And they think, look, if we stop them here or they kick it, we could have the ball back with some time and 2 timeouts. But Rutgers at this point maybe thought they were okay being down 7, maybe 10, get to halftime as soon as possible, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's really how that works. It's a very different consideration from 10-second runoff with like a helmet off, an injury, or created by a foul that stops a running clock, because then you have a very defined sequence of how you do this. Here, there's no real defined sequence. both teams have the option to use a timeout to avoid it. It's gonna if they don't, it's gonna happen, right? The 10-second runoff is gonna happen. So set the clock back to where it was when the knee was down, run 10, and if we run 10, the rule is the same. The clock's gonna go on the ref for play.
Yep.
Hey, Brandon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about mechanically dealing with that, because I'm just thinking of a situation. I'm Rutgers. I have all 3 timeouts. Let's put this clock at 50 instead of 36. I have all 3 timeouts.
Okay. Sure.
Wake Forest, we're talking to Wake Forest. We say, hey, do you want to use your timeout we're going to run 10 seconds off. Do you want to use your timeout? And they say no, or whatever they say. I don't think I would like for the crew to be communicating across the field to the Rutgers side and saying, oh, well, they're not going to use theirs, and ask the Rutgers coach what he wants to do in that situation. Because now we're talking about maybe a competitive advantage for the Rutgers side by knowing what Wake Forest's decision is going to be.
It's like maybe just let them offer up what they want to do. We just go
like we should independently ask both teams and then make a decision as an officiating crew who's going to get charged. I don't even know how we would do that, but that's just something I never even thought about this, honestly.
No, it's good. It's a good point, and it's why this is a crew effort. It's not Corey running across to both sidelines and then reporting both. I think you're reporting both decisions here to the referee. Really, we need this as a whole crew effort. I mean, kudos to you that you're aware of this, but that, I think, Tutai, your point there really behooves us as a crew effort. Okay, sideline guys on that side go to that coach at the same time.
Yes.
Sideline guys on that side go and ask the same question. Do you want to use a timeout to avoid this runoff?
Right.
Period.
Tutai, to your point, we did not reference Wake Forest's decision. I mean, Rutgers let it know early, but we then again, I think Andy went to him and asked, do you want to prevent this runoff? And they said, no, let it run.
Right.
We didn't put in terms of, hey, Wake Forest has declined or anything like that. But I mean, you bring up a good situation. This is, more time, 50 seconds, I think is what you said. I think that definitely adds a different wrinkle to this type of situation.
Good situation.
I mean, I don't know, man. They may need to revisit that in the offseason, because that could turn into a thing very easily,
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Volleying it back across the field. What are you going to do?
Absent of like a policy or a rule for it, that could get tough.
I think if that happens, and I know this is easier saying it here, sitting on the couch, than when you're in the heat of the battle. I mean, they only have so much time. Eventually, it's going to be a runoff, because it is a runoff unless somebody uses a timeout. And if you don't tell me to use a timeout, it's a runoff. So we're going to, like I said, much easier here than actually.
No, and I agree. I think that makes sense. But I think our original point of really, when you think about time at the end of a half and team A is trying to score, I mean, you almost think about the runoff as designed to impact them. That's really what the purpose of it is. I know you could argue that in certain scenarios, but in general sense, that's really the purpose of it. I don't know. It's really interesting. Good stuff.
All right, enough Gator Bowl. Jeez.
All right.
Enough Gator Bowl. We are going to get into some back judge stuff, and I guess other positions are involved. Tutai, you can go to sleep. Me and you and I can go to sleep. Let's talk a little KCI DY, Daniel Young. 2 plays here for you. So we'll talk KCI first, and then we've got a penalty enforcement question next. There's going to be a play A and a play B, same game. And, there's a lot of aspects. I mean, we've got a 1-yard barrier in the rule. We've got some blocking. We've got some decision-making. We've got some positioning. Go ahead, man. What are you seeing on these plays?
So let's just wait. Well, okay. Let's just talk about the 2, because they're kind of different considerations for KCI. This is play B. When we look at play A or 4A that's getting ready to come up, we're really going to have to take into consideration, okay, does the team A player get within 1 yard of the receiving team player? And okay, so here we are. So here's what we're going to have to decide. Is 4 within 1 yard? And does that impact the kicking team's players or the receiving team player, the returner, 29's opportunity to complete the catch unimpeded? And it's really close. It's really, really close. I think that probably if you're officiating this play on the field, you can get into the 1 yard and all of that, and you could break out a yardstick and decide in your brain. I think what you really want to ask yourself is, did number 4's action impede the returner's ability to complete the catch? What I see whenever we look at this, that's going to make it really, really tricky when we get back there, is that the receiving team player, his own guy, ends up right in front of him right as the ball is coming down. So I think at some point, okay, so back to let's just talk about the philosophy really quickly. I'm sorry, this is tricky for me going from one play to the next because I'm talking about one play and we're looking at the other. But how we want to officiate this play with a fair catch signal is, if he gets within 1 yard, he's violated the rule. But we're not going to have a foul for KCI, and we've talked about this before, unless the kick returner muffs the ball, or if he catches it cleanly and there's contact from the kicking team player, then we do want a foul for KCI. Okay, so if he gets within 1 yard, no contact, clean catch, no foul for KCI. Clearly, we have a muff here. So we have to ask, what the question we have to answer is, does number 4 get within 1 yard? And when we look at it from these angles, it really looks like he kind of sidesteps him. And what happens is the receiving team player, his own teammate, gets within 1 yard. And that's really what causes him to stutter step here, and ultimately what creates the muff. If you're on the field and you say, nope, I see 28, number 4 was within 1 yard, and he reacted to number 4, and you judge that as causing the kick returner to kind of do that little stutter right before he muffs the punt, then you would want to have a foul for KCI. I'm not saying that that's the correct judgment or it isn't, but that's what you have to process when you're working this play. And so what I would encourage, here we go, this is better, any of us to do if we're working this play, just like all of the different plays we talked about, is as a back judge, what I really want to do is be able to be stationary to allow all of this action to unfold in front of me. Really, I think, from a mechanics perspective, I don't have the play downloaded. Are you doing this for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want this?
Do you have the play downloaded?
Yeah, it's right here. You're not seeing it?
I'm not. Is anybody else?
I'm not seeing it either.
I don't see it either.
We're just seeing your screen shared. I can get it real quick.
I'm sorry I threw you off. How do you see it?
There we go.
There
Okay.
we go.
Keep it up.
Okay. So this is really tricky. I think the back judge is in great position. I mean, look, if I could just create utopia here, probably be a little bit closer up to the 30 and maybe a touch tighter at the hash. But I don't have any problem with this. We want to be careful when the punt is short. They're just sprinting up and running through all of this action. I really appreciate that we're just still and watching all of this. Okay, so here's what we see at the time the ball's coming down, go up a little bit. Sure. Yeah, really good job mechanically, I think. So what we're going to see now is he really works to the side, and it looks to me like 28 gets in his own guy's way, and that really what kinds of impedes him. But if we go to this one step before 4 side steps, right now, could you say that he's within his shoulder, and he's clearly within 1 yard? Their feet are almost touching. It's hard to tell if he's within the frame of his shoulders, because that's really what we're talking about. It's not this 1 yard halo that goes out from his shoulders. We're talking about the frame of the shoulders within 1 yard. I can't say definitively. I think just personally, like right there at that point, he's within 1 yard. Mm-hmm. That's where we saw the right foot of the kicking team player right in front of the left or the right foot of the receiver. We saw that from the sideline view. We could tell he's within 1 yard.
Any issues with his left hand by number 28?
Yeah, no, go ahead. Let it play. No, I mean, I think if anything, the left hand helps him get out of the way.
Yeah.
we don't see the kicking team
He's there
player
on it.
try to break
He's there
down.
on his
and
own.
he doesn't try to break down and then get lunged forward. I mean, I tell you what, when we piece those two angles together and, on the field, that's really challenging for the back judge to work all of that together. I think that number 4 is within the 1 yard buffer with that right foot. It's kind of foot to foot, so he's staggered. But right here, that's within 1 yard. And the ball's not down yet, but I don't have a problem if the back judge rules that impeded 21's opportunity. I'm obviously not being super convicted about that, because you could also say, yeah, he's within 1 yard, and then he sidesteps, and then 28, his own teammate really gets in his way.
So we have a fair catch signal, and you said if he catches it clean without contact, we've been trained. Not sure if that's written, but we've been trained that that's not KCI.
Correct.
Pretty much, absolutely.
Yeah,
okay, so here, I mean, look, he does definitely muff this ball.
Yeah.
He just falls right on it. Is there anything with no contact? Could you just say, gosh, let's just, it's real tight. And certainly if Oklahoma State in this case recovers it, we got more. But do you play the result at all in this? Or is it pretty much, look, if he doesn't catch it clean, and you do definitely have him within 1, I'm saying. He doesn't catch it clean.
If my judgment on this play is, if my judgment is that he's within 1 yard and we have a muff, I'm not worried about the result. I'm going to have a foul for KCI.
Gotcha. And I'm not saying, look, I think it within 1, but it's so easy to do this with stop, frame by frame. I mean, this is, and this probably isn't playing too well, but this is really the receiver kind of also moving laterally at the same time. Man, I don't know how you guys do it, honestly.
That's a tough one. I mean, that's one of the tougher KCI considerations that I've seen, to be honest with you. I really, truly, I don't mean to sound like I'm in the fence. I'm not sure. At one point when I was watching this, just trying to put myself in a position on the field, because we can evaluate what we think on film, and there's value for that because we index what we see and apply it in the future. But just trying to put myself on the field, how I would work this, I'm really not. When I started, I felt like it wasn't KCI, that really we're responding to our teammate getting in front of us. But as we watch it over and over, if I see those feet that tight together, even though he's not directly in front of him, we got to understand that his protection is shoulder to shoulder. And I feel like that kind of hesitates him, like he just hitches a little bit, then I would have a foul for KCI. So that's a good one. Okay, so here's what we're looking at on the next one. This guy is clearly within 1 yard. He clearly impedes him from getting to the ball. We've got a kick. We've got a return team player behind him, and he's got a right hand on the back. Let's do that. I think with this one, let's just go back to the video, Brandon, because you can't. I think we'll see the details better, and we'll just suffer through the loop. It'll be okay.
That's fine. I got the. Hang on. That's like a read your mind. Go here. This is 4B only on the loop. Go ahead.
Beautiful. So we're going to see a right hand on the back of the kicking team player. So from a back judge perspective, most of the time, not always, I won't have a great feel for any of that, right? I'm seeing number 26 clearly impedes 80's ability to complete the punt. So for me, that's a clear and obvious foul for KCI. So now Corey needs to come in let's say this, Corey has to evaluate whether or not he thinks that number 8's hand causes the KCI, right? So we say blocked into, but really what we want to say, I think a better way to phrase it is, does the contact or the force from the return team player cause the kicking team player to interfere with a returner? That's a lot of words, but what I'm trying to say is this blocked into concept is a little bit overused. It's really about, is he causing that KCI? And so Corey's got to evaluate that. And if he comes to the conclusion that, you know what, he pushed him, his hand was driving him into the returner, and that's the reason he impeded him, he's got to come in and tell me that immediately. If he doesn't think that's the case, then obviously there's nothing to say. We're going to mark off 15 from the spot of the foul and move forward with it. But I have an opinion about this, but I'm really interested, Corey, what your thoughts are, because there is a hand right there on the back. If you're evaluating this from the side judge, how would you evaluate that action?
So when I see, I mean, this is a great piece of discussion because we don't get to go over this all that often. But when I see that there is contact, it's just like kind of like an OPI or even a DPI, that I want to see some type of physical change to the person receiving the block, to their body posture, to their direction. Maybe it's they're leaning a different way that doesn't seem natural. I want to see that there's been some type of force exerted, not just contact. Contact alone, to me, is not going to make me come in there and pull you off of a KCI. I want to see that contact actually, he was driving the train, if you will, and he put that train he put that player in front of the returner versus just having that contact and kind of feeling him on the way down there, which all defensive players that are covering a gunner, they try to maintain that contact the whole way down the field. That doesn't make it that they're leading them where they want to go. You want to see something that pushes that. So I'm interested to see what your thoughts are on it now.
Yeah, I think you articulated what I thought very, very well. Like, that was a great explanation. I was all over the place with the KCI, confusing everybody. That was really direct. I agree with it. Absolutely. Like, it's not just the contact. You want to see him drive him into him versus just touching him, because like you said, that's what he wants to do. I agree absolutely with that. I mean, there's a little extension there, but 26 has put himself in position to be right in front of the returner when the ball's coming down. He's not forced into that. He's not leaning him into that. He's not, holding him and stiff arming him into it. I think the way that you described that's really well.
Yeah, you just don't see any type of physical alteration to 26, whatever number this is, to the path that he's taken that entire time. If he was trying to break down and then that contact kept pushing him forward, you would see some type of a, kind of like he's trying to stop from going that way, but he's being forced anyway, or maybe a body lean. But I think 26 goes exactly where he wants to go. He just realizes too late that he's in the wrong spot.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, good discussion. So one more thing real quick. We got a poll on this play, penalty enforcement. So just this 4B play only. So how are we going to enforce? Let's say we stay with it. The guys articulated it. We're staying with it. Where do we enforce this from? Is it, so this again, foul by the kicking team, kick catch interference is called. It's the only foul on the play. What's the enforcement spot? Previous spot of the foul. Is it the spot of illegal touching by the kicking team, team A? Or is it the spot where the ball belongs to team B, which is basically the out of bounds spot right there, right around the 40? So really 4 options. At the end of the play, you've got a down marker at the previous spot. You've got Daniel's beanbag at hang on. You've got Daniel's flag. I'll get there. You got Daniel's flag at the spot of his KCI foul. You've got somebody's beanbag at the spot where 52 touched the kick. And then you've got a football where the ball went out of bounds.
While they're mulling their options on this one, we had a question come in from Dave asking if we have a block by A that puts B into him, and then, is that a block in the back? Well, yeah, that's a decision we have to make as deep wings. That, if it is forceful enough to put the player, to take a kicking team player off of KCI, then we also have to, process, is that a foul for block in the back?
Can I say it another way?
Yeah, please do.
If you've got a block in the back and the player who is then called for KCI was the one who got blocked, I mean, most of the time, wouldn't you say that's going to be a pickup for KCI and stay?
100%. If we're flagging the block in the back before even considering being blocked into, that kind of helps the process go a little bit smoothly, I think.
Right.
Hey, but all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are not squares. Let's say is really guiding him into the contact, and we say, you know what, he guided him into the contact, but I just don't have that as a block in the back. Is that possible?
Yes. Well,
so.
yeah. Let me think about it. That was kind of a hasty answer.
The only thing is on that, it's a good what if. The only thing you want to be careful, because if we say he was blocked into, there's no foul for KCI because he was. No, hang on. No, hang on. Because if we say, I'm going with you on this, just bear with me. If we say he was blocked into, so there's no foul for KCI, and the only contact was in the back, now we're a little bit shaky. Well, wait a second.
Yeah.
How can you say he? Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So I'm kind of thinking about how I want to announce that now. But I don't know. That's a really good what if.
Also interesting, 52 tried to bat the ball forward. So we would have a really interesting discussion.
If that was called.
Yeah, on penalty enforcements too.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like a really crappy bat. And, it was awful.
It looked like your forehand, Brandon. I saw you play tennis one time. It looked like your
forehand. Oh, no.
Oh, here we go.
What about ping pong and pickleball?
I've never seen
my forehand. My forehand's good when I'm playing my 8-year-old daughter. Anyways, I would consider this a crappy bat and therefore a muff. Yeah, I would just give him the benefit of the doubt that he's trying to achieve possession, even though he's clearly not.
Yeah, but he can bat the ball backwards. He just can't bat it forwards.
Yeah, when you try to bat the ball forward and it actually still goes backward, isn't that kind of funny?
Yeah, we'll just say that's fine.
All right, look at the poll results. 86% spot of the foul, 9% where the ball belongs to Team B, 4% previous spot, 0% spot of illegal touching. Congratulations, crew. That's good. We never want to consider the spot of illegal touching. Is never the right word there, guys. Never is the spot of illegal touching a enforcement spot unless it so happens to be another spot. Is that correct?
There you go.
Yes.
With the caveat, unless it so happens.
There's always a caveat.
Like the end of the kick.
Okay, so this is a good job. KCI is the only foul. That means the penalty is absolute. It's stated in the penalty clause as spot of the foul. Everybody's good?
Yes.
Unless it was kick catch interference with targeting. Does that change anything? Now we're into a what if. Let's say 26. Yes, it's KCI, but it's also targeting. First of all, are you going to announce both? Or are you just going to announce targeting, or are you just going to announce kick catch interference?
We had this discussion before.
Yeah. Is that a chat poll?
Let's do a chat poll.
If
what was his number? 28? Whatever.
28.
Sure. Are we back on 4A? We relooped. Let's go back to 4B. If the player who is guilty of KCI, if all that same action was targeting, how should it be reported and therefore announced, and why? So basically the options would be personal foul KCI with targeting, just KCI, just targeting. There might be another option.
There is another option. You could say 2 fouls on the play.
Yes. Yes, you could. That's interesting. That was the trick question.
We're not getting much reaction on the chat poll. Here we go. Here we go. All right, we got one KCI with targeting.
Why is 4A still coming up? Oh, well. I think we got it by now.
Another KCI with targeting.
All right. Well, what do you guys think? They'll come in. They're typing. Personal foul KCI with targeting. What do you think on this?
Brandon, you kind of converted me. I think I was originally in the camp that we would say KCI with targeting, but I think I gave my answer already. People should have bit on it. I think I would announce 2 different fouls.
Don't you do 2 different? Are we done with the chat poll? Or
yeah,
two different enforcements.
I think you do too, because since KCI has a specific enforcement,
Yes.
is that if we have targeting and the ball's in front of where the KCI takes place, isn't that a bigger advantage to the offended team?
Yep.
Yeah. And, I'm okay if we announce KCI with targeting, but we do need to understand it's really two different fouls. So to be very, very precise, I like 2 fouls on the play, ball by number 28, kick catch interference, and personal foul targeting. I think that covers us because personal foul targeting is going to be enforced from the out of bounds spot, and KCI can't be enforced from the out of bounds spot, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, let me ask
I
you
think
this then. Why? I'm trying to think of another scenario where we could have that. How about like DPI with
I
targeting?
mean, DPI. It's so I don't like the width is really when it's another personal foul. That's really what it was designed for.
Mm-hmm.
DPI, if we have targeting on DPI, I mean, so yes, because
Say he catches the ball.
That's really
Say he catches the ball.
the ball. And so we can't enforce 2 live ball fouls though, right? So you really can't. You can't. It's not like you can enforce them both.
No, but he caught the ball, so you're declining the DPI, but you're tacking on the targeting.
I see what you're saying. Yes, absolutely.
I mean, not that you're ever going
That's a good point.
see that.
That's a really good point. If he catches the, I mean, that's how many times you've seen the guy who got targeted catch the ball? I'm sure there's an example.
Well, let's say he doesn't catch it, but say he gets targeted DPI with targeting at 5 yards. So instead of a 5-yard DPI penalty, you could go back previous spot 15.
Correct. Then it would always be a 15-yard penalty.
Okay.
Now, I feel like practically most people are going to do that even if we announce DPI with targeting. But to me, it's more technically correct. If we want to be technical, since we're getting into the off season here, it's more technically correct to announce 2 fouls on the play for really the sole purpose, because like KCI and DPI are not personal fouls. They're just not. And the whole thing is when you have another personal foul, you announce the width. So interesting discussion. All right, we good?
What season did you say we were in?
Get better season.
There you go.
Sorry. Here we go. Let's go to what bowl is this? It's got to play.
Gator?
No.
Oh,
We're done with that bowl.
The other end of Florida.
wow.
Video rolling. Yeah, we're on the Gulf.
Kind of in the middle of Florida, aren't we?
Yeah. Central Florida.
Gulf side.
Tampa is considered Central Florida?
Yes.
Oh, I would consider that's like Southwest Florida. Okay. You're probably right. You were there, so.
Okay, I got some tricks.
Well, I wouldn't. Yeah, he was there physically.
This geography lesson is going south fast. Get the pun right there?
Yep.
Like that? Daniel, you like that?
I did.
See what I did there?
Well done.
Okay. I came up with a certain number. When the offense goes into a scrimmage kick formation, how many rules change? How many rules change when this offense goes into a scrimmage kick formation? That's my chat poll. That's my trivia question for you guys.
How many rules change?
How many rules? Like
so
how many
rules change? Not how many rules come into play, but how many rules actually change.
Yeah, like normally we work the rule this way, but because of a scrimmage kick formation, the rule is now this.
Okay.
I can think of 3.
I had 3.
Okay. So I'll give you one that's really easy. The defense can't line up over the snapper if we're in a scrimmage kick formation. They can't cover the snapper, right?
Okay.
Normally a nose guard can go head up on the snapper, but in a scrimmage kick formation, that's illegal. That's an illegal formation on the defense. So that's what I'm talking about. Normally you can do this, or maybe you can't do this, but now that we're in a scrimmage kick formation, you now can or can't do whatever you're talking about. See what I'm saying? So you got 3. What 3 do you have?
Blocking below the waist changes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a kick play. I guess you got to be in a.
Yeah, you got to be.
You don't really have to be in a scrimmage kick formation to kick the ball, but
Yeah, good
if you
point.
do kick the ball, you're right. So that's kick play. So that sorry.
Well,
numbering.
then numbering 50 through 79 on the line of scrimmage. That goes away. That changes. I guess
so.
then,
The offense is exempted. Normally on a scrimmage play, the offense has to have 5 numbered 50 through 79. But if we get them in a scrimmage kick formation, they're exempted from that rule. They don't have to have 5 numbered 50 through 79 anymore, right? That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
So then I guess to piggyback off your lining over the nose tackle, you can't hit the center. Or I guess is that a scrimmage kick formation or a kick play? You can't hit the center.
So when we're in a scrimmage kick formation, the defense becomes restricted from contacting the snapper within 1 second after the snap.
Right.
That applies to a scrimmage kick formation.
Yeah.
They don't have to kick the ball. They just, if they're in a scrimmage kick formation, the snapper has protection from forcible contact up to 1 second after the snap. So that's another one. You're knocking it out of the park.
And then
So I got 5, but there's probably more. So the other one for the offense really applies to this numbering exception, but it's different. The offense is restricted from uncovering an original ineligible, right, who was covered up if they were a numbering exception. That you can normally do that. So you can normally uncover somebody who was originally covered up when the snap was established.
Yeah, I don't like that
normally
one. You're cheating.
No, that applies.
No, that's 100% correct.
No, because you don't have numbering exceptions.
formation.
You don't have numbering exceptions until you have a scrimmage kick formation. So it's like a caveat.
It's like a 1A, 1B.
Yeah, I don't like it in terms
But
of
it's
just
still
the numbers. Okay.
Okay, you're not playing the game right. And then the defense for the 5th one that I found, the defense is exempted from defensive pass interference on a pass that's thrown high and deep from a scrimmage kick formation.
Right.
Okay, so what else? Delay of game in a scrimmage kick formation goes to the snap. I think that's a good one.
Yeah,
you have to be in a scrimmage kick formation. So that's
that's a good one. I didn't think about that. One.
Shifts. Yeah, we're getting numbering shifts. So that's kind of what I was talking about with uncovering, because you can still shift in a scrimmage kick formation, but it's the kind of shift. Okay, good. So we got to 6, actually. That's a good one. Kenny Wilson with the MVP. So there's at least 6. There's probably more differences. But what's important to figuring all that out, if that's not hard enough, we got to figure out what the heck is a scrimmage kick formation first, right?
Yeah.
Because all of that stuff only changes if, in fact, we're in a scrimmage kick formation. So this play happened a few days ago. Let's go to the crew on the field. Was this a scrimmage kick formation or not?
So what question are you asking, Brandon? Let's start. Are you asking how we played it on the field, or are you asking?
You can go any way you want. What defines a scrimmage kick formation? Does that meet that definition? My point of doing all this stuff is that it's very important to know if the ball is snapped from a scrimmage kick formation or not, because the rules of the game change in an incredible way.
That's correct.
And so there are no issues on this play, but was our process to the standard that we wanted? And this play presents a lot of challenges because you see that they come out in a field goal formation. Then they completely shift out of it. So the snapper has already established the formation in that field goal formation. So if there was any
nope.
He never got his hands at below his knees.
Never put his hands on the ball. He stood up and he never touched the ball.
Yeah, the umpire had him held up the whole time. Yep.
Okay, good. That's fine. But if he would have, then if any of those guys, if they were in the game under numbering exception, if they didn't have 5 numbered 50 through 79 is what I'm saying, the snapper, that would be an illegal formation immediately at the snap because he's wearing what would be a numbering exception number.
That's correct.
But you're saying that didn't happen. And plus they had 5 guys numbered 50 through 79, whatever. So
I would love to have been aware of that, to be perfectly honest, though.
yeah, I'm sure somebody was. Even
Yeah,
if you
right.
weren't. Get back to how do we need to evaluate this? Is it a scrimmage kick formation or not? Because just because you have 5 numbered 50 through 79, you can still have a scrimmage kick formation. You
That's
just might
correct.
not be using a numbering exception. So I
That's
need
correct.
to let you go.
So no, I'll just tell you how what my brain processed on the field, and I would love to honestly. Before we even get into that, we talk about, because this play happened out of a timeout. We talk about matching up, allowing the defense an opportunity to match up, and that does not, as we've previously discussed, mean having 11 players on the field. At what point in time should we as referees release the umpire on the fourth down or center judge on any other down on a situation like this when a team shifts into a completely different formation prior to us releasing them? It seems to be unfair to the offense if I hold the umpire over the ball until the offense can figure out the formation and then match up. But then it also somewhat seems unfair to the defense if I just release them and they run some weird trick formation and I didn't allow them to match up, which is kind of strange. And I only thought about this after the play occurred, watching the film. What do you think about that, Brandon? Because I haven't released the umpire yet, and now the offense has totally changed what they're doing. Do I need to allow them to match up to this formation, or should I have said, you know what, we all had 11 on the field, we knew what we were doing, let's just go?
Yeah, that's interesting. My initial reaction to that is that since they started in a normal field goal formation and the defense was pretty well in position, and now that they shift, I don't think we prolong the substitution process.
Correct.
Because it's really a shift. On the other hand,
correct,
if they come out in this funky formation, I might prolong the matchup opportunity. 3 seconds is a farce anyway, quite frankly, to be honest with you. But I might prolong it even more than I normally prolong that rule, just because it's a little bit unusual. So we're lined up here in a pretty normal field goal position. We shift out of it. Looks like the defense it's pretty easy for the defense to respond to it. So I'm not gonna really get the substitution rule involved, unless of course they sub a new player on, which that's not.
Right. Okay, so that's what I did. So anyway, for me, let me answer your original question, which you asked like 30 minutes ago, and I intentionally ignored it. I played this in my brain, and I didn't say anything to anyone else because we didn't end up with a flag, we didn't end up with a foul, we didn't end up with anything but an incomplete pass. But in my brain, I did not play this as a scrimmage kick formation once Team A shifted into whatever that was that they shifted into. I played this as a trick scrimmage, normal scrimmage play formation. However, when I look at the film, it is pretty evident that this kicker is intentionally 10 yards back. And I think the coach would argue that this is a scrimmage kick formation. And I don't know if I have a good answer for why it's not.
Which coach?
We've had conversations about this already, so I know I'm going to get blasted by the rest of y'all, but I don't know why.
Which coach would you say has the argument?
Team A. I would say Team A would say this is a scrimmage kick formation. Why are you telling me this is not a scrimmage kick formation?
If they're going to throw a pass high and deep, why would they want to be in a scrimmage kick formation?
Because they're just trying to do a trick play. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
My point is this. If you line up 9 yards, DPI's on. If I'm going with what you're saying. If you line up in if you're saying Team A wants this as a scrimmage kick formation, that's silly.
Absolutely. I do think that they want this as a
because
scrimmage kick
DPI's
formation.
off.
I'm aware of that. Okay, I'm not saying Team A is aware of that, but I'm saying that Team A wants this to be a scrimmage kick formation. Or else why line up a punter at 10 yards?
Okay, well, let's go through the definition of the scrimmage kick formation since you're not taking the bait. All right. What are the three? There's really three criteria.
Nobody under center to receive a hand-to-hand snap.
Okay, yeah, that's part of the first criteria.
Yeah. Somebody 10 yards back,
or a kicker and holder, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. What about another criteria? So that's number one. What about another criteria?
Well, it has to be obvious that a scrimmage
Obvious
kick.
that we're going to make a scrimmage kick.
Obvious that a scrimmage kick will be attempted. That's interesting. And then
Yeah,
there's one.
and why did that come about? Because teams were playing games with first and
with a
second
numbering
down,
exception.
putting people in the scrimmage kick formation, or putting a normal quarterback in a scrimmage kick formation and playing games with numbers.
Right.
This is fourth down.
So it's fourth. So that's another. It has to be a down, right? It has to be. Is third down considered, or is it just fourth down?
Third or fourth, I think.
I don't know. I looked for it and I didn't see it written. And I didn't look very long. I'll be perfect.
Well, I think that's the obvious kick will be maybe attempted is that it's on third or fourth down.
Yeah. That's what I thought too, Corey, but I didn't find that written.
I think
anywhere.
the third and fourth down was an interpretation.
It was an interpretation
of that. So
Yes.
so then we got to ask ourselves, when you shift your lineman out in a gate like this, is it still obvious that a kick will be attempted? And I don't have an answer to that. To me, no, but to you, apparently, looking at this, it is.
On video, yes. On the field, no. On the
Yeah.
field, again, I just want to reiterate that. On the field, I did not play this
understand.
as a scrimmage kick formation.
I understand. So, in other words, if he commits DPI, right here, instead of dropping, thankfully for them, this interception, if somebody commits DPI on the field, you would have enforced the penalty.
Absolutely.
Upon review, you would hope that you would not have enforced the penalty.
Upon
really
review, I don't know what the hell I would do. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, man. This play is all
But
jacked
if you're
up.
saying,
I know what I'm saying.
Okay,
I know what I'm saying.
if you're saying it's a scrimmage kick formation, upon review, you're saying that you would have hoped you would have not enforced the penalty. In the moment, you didn't have it. Yeah.
I'm saying I'm 50.0001% sure that this is a scrimmage kick formation.
Okay. So then it goes down to me, and then y'all take it from here, please. That when they shift like this, you have to, is that reasonably obvious a kick will be attempted? Does that shift affect your decision on that at all?
Well,
And I guess if it doesn't, it's still a scrimmage kick formation. If it does, then it's not. So that's where I think I land on this. And it would be good to get a more solid interpretation. What do you think, Daniel?
No, I think I've never seen a scrimmage kick. I understand the point about the obvious clause, kind of the origin of that from the numbering exception and playing those games. I know it's fourth down. I don't. To me, when we shift from a field goal position and almost go into a swinging gate, even though the punter and he's at 10 yards, to me that there's nothing obvious about that the scrimmage kick is going to be made from the defense's perspective. In fact, I don't really understand the point of this play at all, because if I'm a defensive coordinator or a coach, I'm like, no, you're clearly not punting it. What are you doing? Like, I don't.
Well, that's it.
I don't know that.
If that's the case, then it's not a scrimmage
in a public
formation.
forum. But like, to me, you're almost better served if you're gonna fake a punt to like be in an actual scrimmage kick formation where it's obvious a scrimmage kick. No, I mean, I land kind of with you. Nothing about that communicates to me that a scrimmage kick is going to be made. In fact, once they shifted out of this, I thought, oh, well, this will be interesting. I don't know what kind of play this is going to be, but I was pretty confident they wouldn't kick it.
Hey, but Daniel, didn't you on the field, you would not have had a flag for DPI, right? Because you were thinking high and deep, and you were thinking this would not be DPI, correct?
No. Is that no? I would have had a foul for DPI.
Okay, I thought we were switching places, because I thought on the field you would not have had DPI and I would have, and then now
Did I say that?
would not have.
I don't. I think now I'm questioning myself. I feel like I would have had
a high and deep ball.
He did throw a high
Absolutely.
and deep ball for sure.
If you would have
Are you
called
really
DPI, you do not have this as a scrimmage kick formation. If you would not
Correct.
have called DPI, you do have this as a scrimmage kick formation.
Yep.
Correct.
I tell you what, though, just in a general sense, I'm not going to be in the business of deciding if it's a scrimmage kick formation most of the time or not.
So you're going to call DPI and then let everybody else who is responsible for the formation tell you. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yeah, I really don't remember too, Tom. I hate to say that. It hasn't been that long ago.
All right. Well,
I
look,
remember we had that conversation, but I will say again, in
Yeah.
general, most of the time from where I'm at, I'm not going to be in the business of deciding what kind of formation it is.
Hey, Daniel, let me ask you a question. Did you and the field judge, did you move mechanically at the snap, or did you move? Because I can't really tell in the film here. Once you saw that there was no holder.
No, as soon as the holder left, I told the field judge, go to the pylon. I said, they're not kicking a field goal. Go over there. You can see on camera 2 and 360, I shift them off, and I moved to the I moved to the goal line, and number 7 was already in the end zone, but I stayed on the end line.
Okay.
Which maybe communicates I was thinking maybe he might punt it. So maybe to me it wasn't obvious.
I love it. Here's the thing. If it's he might punt it, then it's not obvious, and it's not a scrimmage kick formation.
Yeah.
I feel like if we're in doubt, it should not be. But
I tell you what,
that's really not stated anywhere.
Just looking at it from a rules perspective, I think you're probably right. But on the field, now that I think about that part, I remember moving to the goal line and thinking, okay, I need to get to the goal line in case he punts this.
See, I lived through one of these type of plays at the beginning of the 2020 season, and I think as a deep official, once you kind of in that, you think it could be, it couldn't be. I think we have to, as Daniel said, we just work it as a pass play. If we see something that says a DPI, we put a flag down, and then we come up and ask a question. Because we're going to know.
I agree with that.
Deep, but then we need to come up and say, okay, was that a scrimmage kick formation? And Tuta will be 50.001% sure that it was, and we'll just have to pick it up, I guess, at that point. So, there's some really good questions coming out of this.
Let's go through those. I mean, the point of this is that the game changes so much with the presence, or really not the presence, of a scrimmage kick formation. So we have to be intentional about that, and maybe not all of us are. But we really have to be intentional about that. Usually,
I think we take
obvious.
it for granted. Yeah, I think we take it for granted.
I think so too. Those rolling of the wrists. What are we all talking about?
Yep.
Okay. What do we want to talk about? What about the side judge? Take that one, Corey.
Well, the side judge is saying, "Oh, you know what?" Right now, because if this was closer to the goal line, maybe we tried to shift out there. Because if we don't see a holder, then we should stay in our normal position. But this happens so late that. And we have if he were to try to get back to his regular position, he would just be in the middle of the way, and he'd be running and not be of no good to anybody. So I think what the side judge does here, I would have done the same thing. Just go stay with the gate, and because if there's a holder in that situation, that's what we would do. We would stay with the gate, and by the gate, it's the bigger gathering of players over there. So at that point, you do the best you can to officiate what comes your way.
Good. Okay, the center going downfield for a pass. Look, they shifted out of the position. The center is the end man on the line of scrimmage. So he is eligible if there's no number. There wasn't an initial numbering exception, which he wasn't. He's also eligible if he's numbered not 50 through 79 and he's on the end of the line, which he is. So this is completely legal, him going downfield. Completely legal. All right, I hope that makes sense. No numbering exception. He's not 50 through 79. He's an end by shift. It's legal.
Yep.
Oh, so he was covered up at the start?
He would have been had he established himself as a snapper, but he didn't do that.
Like you guys were saying, we still had this umpire was holding them up.
Okay.
So really this.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah, I got you.
It really wasn't.
Nobody went down.
Formation wasn't established, but it doesn't matter. Even if it was, and even if they were clearly covering him up, not by a 3-point snap.
Right. Because there's no exception.
Because there's no exception. If they shift out and uncover him, he's legal. since he's not 50 through 79.
Did anybody talk about
Crazy.
IDP at all on this one?
Oh,
IDP, you say?
So, Corey, that's funny you asked that question because that was what spurred our whole post-game discussion about this play. Should we have had a flag for IDP or not? After the play was over, that was the first thing I thought. And I asked the center judge, I'm like, incredulously, I was like, was nobody downfield on that? There's no way. But apparently, we just made a decision not to flag IDP because of the result of the play. So that kind of spurred an interesting discussion.
Who are you flagging for IDP, first of all? Let's be clear.
I have no idea because I wasn't, I guess, one of those 50 through 79s at the top that maybe wandered more than 3 yards downfield.
Okay, so maybe they're 3.5. You know, that would not, we wouldn't want that really called anyway on a play like this. You know?
Right.
Whoa, timeout. I disagree with that, Brandon. I disagree with that.
We got to be stricter with the rules on a.
I mean, this guy puts a toenail beyond 3.
Well, okay.
You know, we've talked about impact. I get what you're saying.
Didn't it get to about 4?
Yeah, I think he's at 4.
Okay. Yeah.
But anyway, I get what you're saying.
We can take that one offline.
4. I mean, he's 32.
Don't get fooled.
Well, let's watch it.
Anyways, okay, IDP, make the call yourself. This is great content. No, the whole point is what a wacky play. You know, where else would it occur but a bowl game like this?
Of course.
And yeah, it's just great. And the guy behind the center, he's pretty much clearly breaking the waistline of the center, so he's fine. You know, there's nothing wrong. He's at 3.
Yeah, did Coach Franklin let you know about this, Tuta?
Yes, that was the question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, it is a good question. And this is very interesting because in the pregame, we talked to Arkansas actually was the home team, even though they were on the visiting side. So we talked to the Arkansas coach first. He talked about some fake punts that they were going to run. I said, you want to tell us about them, coach, or you want us to just see them when we get out on the field? And he looked at me funny and he started telling me about it. And he told me about a shift, interestingly enough. And I said, are you going to be using the numbering exception when you make these shifts? And he looked at me crazy again. And he actually went and got the special teams coach. And we had a really interesting discussion about numbering exception on punt plays if they decide to run a fake punt play with a pass. Got to Coach Franklin. He had absolutely nothing that he was going to do that was unusual. And I don't use the word trick formation. I asked for unusual plays or formations. And that's what I asked him about. He had nothing. And then, of course, he comes out and we have this situation like this. But we did talk to the Arkansas coach and he gave us we had a really good discussion about numbering exceptions and formations and stuff like that.
So, but when you asked him if he's going to use the numbering exception, did he know what you mean, or did he give you that kind of like?
He did not know. He did not know, and he went and he got the special teams coach, and the special teams coach knew, and he was very familiar with the numbering exception, and he was very familiar with what he could and couldn't do in terms of shifting if the center is addressing the ball, and once the players, once the center addresses the ball, the players are locked in. And the special teams coach was very familiar. The head coach was not.
See, that's fascinating to me because I always wonder how much time do any coaches, whether it's a head coach, position coach, whatever, how much time do they actually spend looking at the rules of the game they're coaching? Because I think it's probably next to nothing. I don't think
the head coach would not, because he would just trust his assistants to do, to handle their individual positions. But the each individual position coach, I would assume that they really know the rules for their position. I would hope.
Well, I would hope too. I just don't think that's true. Right. Think of some of the comments we get from assistants on the sideline through at any level of football. You're like, what?
Right.
So that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Well, it's a crazy play.
Yeah, it's a weird play, and just to echo what Daniel's saying, I have no earthly idea why they would even run a play like this. It's silly beyond belief. And it's clear. I think for me, it's clear that they told the punter, if you don't have the look that you need, just chuck it deep downfield.
Yeah.
They probably were hoping for an interception, and then it would act as a punt. But that is the stupidest. play
Yeah, I
I've
don't
ever seen.
understand. Like even watching the play, like to see like what their primary read was. I don't even know what. That's a good point. Like, what are they trying to accomplish there? So, unless they were trying to get a DPI, but you guys would have been all over that, I think. So,
I think number 84 was coming across, and they were trying to get number 84. He was the first look. He was one of the up backs, I think, and he came across the formation, but he was covered. But other than that, I have no idea what the intention was.
yeah, that's a crazy one.
Yes.
Well, the good thing about bowl season, they always give us some very interesting plays, and I know as we go through some of these games over the next couple of weeks, we'll pull some of these out and we'll get to relive bowl season a little bit. But we got another game going on tonight.
Yeah, speaking of bowl season, let's
yeah,
wrap this up.
It's still going, and gotta go watch the Wildcat. Who is K-State playing right now?
The good guys. They're playing the good guys.
Okay.
They limped into a bowl game somehow. It was a miracle. Miracle.
And then we got the rematch next Monday. Alabama, Georgia, because the whole country was yearning for that matchup. So sorry, I had to put it in there, but it's fun. It was we're into get better season, I guess. So let's all get
Here
better.
we are.
So that's it for tonight, I think, folks. Thanks for joining us as always. We'll be back here next Tuesday discussing all of the ins and outs of college football. So until then, have a great week, everybody.
See you guys.
Later.
Great job.